Today is day 75 of 75 hard.
Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger. I'm a threat. I'm a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's okay. It's okay. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger. I'm a threat. I'm a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. I ain't never really want to flex my gifts, but I think it's my time, let me check my wrist.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dustin McKee. 37, father of 3, soon to be 4 in February, husband, and I run and own McKee Automotive. It's a program designed to develop mental toughness and get your mind right. It happens to have a whole lot of physical benefits. The main thing is it works on your mental toughness and your mental fortitude, I guess I'd say. There are several critical tasks you have to do every single day. If you miss one or you're screwing up, you start back at day 1. Like I'm on day 75 today. If I miss one of my critical tasks, I am back at 1. So don't fuck up. So the tasks are, you've got 2 workouts. They have to be a minimum of 45 minutes and 1 has to be outside. I lift in the morning and I do outside cardio at night generally. I mean, that fluctuates sometimes, but that's the general way I did it. You have to take a progress picture every day. You try to make it a pretty decent, like, so it's not just like your face or something. You can see your whole body that way. When you line all those pictures up over 75 days, you can see the transformation that you've made. Because like, if you see yourself every day in the mirror, it might not be noticeable, but you line them up and then suddenly it's a big deal. You have to read 10 pages of a non-fiction book, preferably self-betterment. I think I'm 5 books in. I'll have to sit down and look at them all and figure out what all I did, but I average more than 10 pages a day because I like to read, and I picked books that will teach me stuff, so I'm not stopping at 10 generally unless I'm tired or like I'm barely cramming that in. You have to drink at least a gallon of water. This time of the year, that's not hard for me. If I was doing this in the winter, it would suck because it's a lot more hard to drink that in the winter, but especially with it being as hot as it's been, that one hasn't been too bad. And then you have to pick a diet, stick to it, no cheat meals, no alcohol. So like, I have been keto with intermittent fasting, some longer fasting thrown in for shits and giggles here and there. But basically super low carb and no alcohol, like I haven't had pizza other than the cheese and the toppings. I haven't had Oreos or Blizzards, which is a big one for me. And I've had very, very little popcorn. I used that to bring in a little bit of carbs every now and then, but like I'm a big popcorn eater, so cut most of that out. No alcohol. I haven't had a drink in 75 days. That's not a huge one for me. I've gone a year or 2 before without drinking, but it definitely, I think I feel a lot better not drinking. My son asked me this morning, he said, what was the hardest one to do or not forget? And honestly, for me, I think it was either the picture or the reading. Like there's been times before where at 11 o'clock at night, I realized I didn't take a picture and I have to get out of bed and come down and take a picture. 2 days ago, day 73, 9:15 at night, realized I hadn't done my 45-minute outdoor or my reading. And so that sucked because it was still like 100 degrees and I put on my weighted vest and went out and did my cardio and then came back and read. It would have really sucked to go back to 1 at 73. They've got an app for your phone that you can track it with, and that's what I use, and normally that keeps me from screwing up like that, but sometimes it's not fail-proof. I've tried it before, and I think that's a lot of the difference was I tried it before, this time I did it. So you have to go into it with a 0 options mentality. Like you can't, that's the whole reason if you screw one thing up, you start over. And that's why I chose keto, because keto, like you gotta stay pretty, you can't have a cheat meal or else it brings you out of ketosis. And so that was easier for me, like it had to be regimented. So I actually tried this in October of 2020 and made it 10 days. January of 21 and made it 7 days. Apparently I tried it for 1 day in February of 21. I made it 4 days in May of 21. And those are my previous failed attempts. And I think the problem with those was you have to be ready to do this, if that makes sense. You have to be committed. And each one of those times I was like, oh, I'll try it. This time I was like, I'm doing it.
75 hard is not something you try. Okay, the biggest mistake I see when it comes to 75 hard is how people speak about it when they're first starting. And I could tell from most people's mindset in the very beginning whether or not they'll finish the program or not, because there's two distinct people. There's the person who says, you know, I'm gonna try 75 hard, but this is the same person that tried Weight Watchers and tried this and tried that and tried all these things, and none of the shit worked for them. All right. Then you got the other person that says, hey, I don't give a fuck if the world ends, I'm finishing those 75 days. Only one of those people finishes the 75 days.
I'm gonna thank this person, but I had a person that knows me but doesn't know me. He's an acquaintance. And one day I got out of my truck and he was like, damn, you sure got more weight on this year than you did last year. First reaction is like, well, fuck you. Who are you to tell me that? But then he's right. I've used the fact that I get cold in the winter as a crutch to have an excuse to eat like shit and not do what I'm supposed to do in the winter. And the older I get, the harder it's getting to bring that off. The leanest I've ever been in the summer was probably last year. I walked around at like 205. I felt great, I looked good. I was just comfortable in my skin, and I got pretty fat this winter. I stress eat. I've always been a stress eater, and I stress ate a lot, and that got me to 235. So I had gotten down a little bit. I was 222.8 when I started this, so I'd already lost, you know, like 12, 13 pounds. 75 days ago, I was 222.8. This morning, I was 189.0, so that's a total loss of 33.8 pounds. The first 30 days of 75 hard, I actually lost about 20 to 25 of that. And then I specifically stayed on purpose between 197 and 201 for the next 30 days. I didn't want to just get skinny. I wanted to try to keep my muscle and build muscle. So the first 30 days, I focused on hardcore cutting, losing as much body weight and body fat as possible. Then the next 30 days, I focused on still within the keto plan and within the intermittent fasting and stuff, but playing with carb levels so that I could stay within that 4-pound window and try to put on as much muscle as possible in that time. From day like 65 to 75, I tried losing as much as possible. So I was like 194, I think, 195, or no, I was 199. And I did a 72-hour fast to start the last 2 weeks. And I went from 199 down to 193. Figured out that might not have been the smartest plan, because then for the next 3 days my body retained everything and I came back up in weight. My body definitely likes the 16-hour fast and the 8-hour feeding window, and like I just did a 30-hour fast, so like the 24 to 30-hour fast, those work really well for me. But when I get past that, apparently my body freaks out and then I hold everything. So I plan on continuing to use keto, intermittent fasting to keep my weight in check. I'm gonna do a bulk. I want to get some muscle back and some size back, but then my plan is like bulk for a month, do keto and fasting for, you know, a week or two to keep my body fat level where I want it to be, and basically not get back to fat kid again. My highest a long time ago, I was 254, and it terrifies me to think about getting back there again. So that's 235 was plenty close enough. I went from all my clothes don't fit because I'm too fat to all my clothes don't fit because I'm not fat enough. I was wearing 38s to 40s when I started this, and now I can wear 34s, 36s are too loose. I've got another kid due in February. We've got a 13-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, a 9-month-old who's a foster kid, and that's already a handful, plus 3 dogs and a wife, and I run a shop, so that's super stressful. So like we've got a lot going on and we're gonna add a kid to it. That was the big driving factor here, was I wanna be my absolute best, the best husband I can be. I wanna be the best father I can be. I wanna be the best business owner I can be. That's not only in the physical aspect. I wanna be better at dealing with stress. I wanna be better with my kids, more patience with my kids. Like I don't have patience with anything, but I'm trying to have patience with them. I wanna be better tomorrow than I am today. That's the long-term goal. Just try to get better try to keep the mental toughness. I've learned a lot. This program teaches you that it really beats in your head that doing the small critical tasks every day add up to big wins. I plan on keeping that rolling and just making sure that I'm making progress. If you're trying to bring more mental fortitude and make progress mentally, I highly recommend 75 Hard. Like, it forces you to focus on the little tasks recreated every day that add up to big wins. If you're gonna do it, do it. Don't dabble with it, don't try it, just fucking do it. Like, that's the only way this program works, and that's the way I approached it this time, and that's the only reason I succeeded. The previous times we talked about, I was like, oh, I'm gonna try 75 Hard. Well, you don't try 75 Hard, you do it.